Is it type of building?
It's not included in the definition of what a building is.
Yeah, let's remove structures. Grain bin's a building. Isn't it?
It says occupancy.
No, a building does not have to be occupied.
Building
Oh, within our,
means any structure designed for intended for shelter, housing, business, office, and accommodations of person, animal, chattels, or property.
right, your housing grain.
That did pretty
Property.
That's pretty good. I like it.
That.
We'll remove
So
the
if you want
structures.
to remove structure and keep the township code, you have to rescind.
I'll change my motion
All right.
to take out structure, but include township roads. We need a clarification.
I'll second that.
Second by Dan.
Brain is not functioning. Include township roads and remove structure.
I think what you have there is just removing and structures.
So as this would read, would be, according to John's motion, all buildings shall be placed at least 200 feet from county and state highway right-of-ways, 200 feet from county road right-of-ways, and at least, and this is the new addition, at least 133 feet from the center of any township road for the purpose of da-da-da-da-da. Okay. That clarify it? Are we good with that? Hearing no other discussion, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carried. All right. Article 7, conditional use fees. We changed this last meeting. Any input that anybody has for that? Hearing none, motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any other discussion or questions on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. That was quick.
What's a fee?
Well, you go all right. Question 3, or third agenda, discussion and approval of and with changes of Article 12, wind tower setbacks. This probably will take a little longer than the permit fee schedule. At our last meeting, there was a motion to make it 1 mile with an option for a variance. Any other discussion on that?
There was a letter that was written to my office. I sent it out to you guys, but I don't know if you guys received it in all the umpteen emails that I sent out. It says, Dear Zoning Commission, my name is Darren Myrie, and while I no longer live in Wells County and Eddy County, I am a landowner there alongside my brothers, who both still live there. As you know, we grew up on our family's farm and continue to rent it out today. Our roots in the community run deep, and I care greatly about its future, which is why I'm writing to express my support for the proposed wind energy project. I understand there are differing opinions on projects like this, but I believe it's important to take a step back and truly consider what this opportunity could mean for the area, especially for a rural community that could greatly benefit from the economic boost. Through my work, I travel the agricultural communities across the U.S. and see firsthand the challenges rural areas continue to face with declining populations, fewer career opportunities, and limited financial resources. From my perspective, the Flickertail Wind Project represents progress that strengthens local communities financially, provides meaningful long-term income, and helps ensure the continued viability of rural living, all while delivering cost-effective, clean energy to a broader area. While my brothers and I no longer farm the land ourselves, we recognize the value in supporting initiatives that help our community thrive. This project would create jobs support local businesses and generate revenue that stays right there in the region. These are real tangible benefits that could help keep small towns alive and give younger generations more reason to stay or even return home. I encourage you to consider the facts and long-term benefits of the Flickertail project. It's an opportunity for Wells and Eddy counties to be a part of something that makes a positive environmental impact while building a strong, more sustainable future for the communities we all care about. Thank you for your time and dedication to the county and the people who call it home. I hope you'll choose to support this project and not only for the economic benefits it brings, but also for the long-term strength and resilience it offers to families, farms, and future generations across Wells and Eddy County. Sincerely, Darren Myrie.
Can I address the commission, please? I appreciate what he wrote and the fact that, you know, he's in support.
For the sake of minutes,
I'll make it quick, I
who
promise.
are you?
Larry Dinder, and I'm sorry, I'm District 14 GOP Chairman. So I represent multiple counties. And you guys actually are in a unique position that you're going to set precedent for counties around the state, or around our district, for sure.
Nothing like adding pressure to this.
Well, I just want to point out some things, guys, that I think you should consider. What I'm handing you, everybody you have your own zoning for your own county right now? You have it with you? If not, I got a copy. I'd like to go over it with you. If you don't, would you say something, please? Anyway, the reason I bring up Stark County is because that's Dickinson, and that includes a district, or I should say a county, that has seen a lot of industrialization, from wind farms to oil and so forth. Just a couple things I want to point out. In comparison with what you guys have. To start with, if you scroll down that first page, it goes to wind energy facility and so forth. Then second page, 619-2, wind energy facility or wind turbine siting permit. And under that, I just want to point out one thing under that topic. If you go into the next page, and like I said, I'll try to keep this brief here. If you go to item J, it addresses an analysis of the project based upon a review of North Dakota Game and Fish Department, wind energy development in North Dakota best management practices. You guys don't address that in your ordinance. For hunters out here and people that hunt birds and deer and everything else, it might be worth touching base. Just as a footnote, you might consider adding that. And then to go a little deeper on the zoning in Stark County, general requirements for wind energy, 619.5. So under your application, 12.1.3.1, application for permit, Stark County makes in section F there, it says, prior to construction, the applicant shall make satisfactory arrangements, including obtaining permits for road use, access, and intersections, maintenance and repair of damages with governmental governmental, help me here, guys. Jurisdiction with authority over the road. The application shall notify the county and superintendent on request. You could almost verbatim look at these two between Stark County and yours, and they've added that section. I don't think it's a bad idea to consider adding that. If you go on to K, this is critically important on Stark County. It's on 102, item K. It says, if approved prior to construction, the permittee will be required to post a bond to cover the cost of decommissioning and restoration. Let me ask you this. How many of you remember your first computer you bought? You remember how much that was? A couple grand maybe? Where's that computer at today? It's in the landfill. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when these towers will need decommissioned. And who's going to pay for it? Is it the landowner, the township, the county? The state isn't going to do it. So by requiring a bond for decommissioning, I think is a critical part of this project moving forward. And Stark County has clearly identified that in their ordinance, and I think it would be something to consider. If you move on down to setbacks, again, they follow you fairly closely, your two, other than they put in item B, structures capable of habitation of non-participants, that each wind turbine shall be set back for non-participant owners, structures capable of habitation a minimum of 2 miles. Again, the variance may be granted and they can negotiate a variance. That's what they've done out there to protect their citizens. On the next page, it goes into public roads. And this is one that I think you talk about setbacks, and that's why I was looking to interject on your township roads and that, but let's talk about setbacks from wind towers from roadways. What they did in Stark County is they specifically outlined highly traveled roads, and they moved the setback to 1 mile off of these roads. And I think the primary reason, and I've got some documentation, it's from the potential ice that throws off of these things. On a 600-foot tower, according to any data, you guys know that they're taking the blade diameter plus the tower height times 1.5 is the potential range of ice throw on these things. And their studies, 2-pound chunk of ice flying 400 feet from the sky will kill you. So just something to consider when you're looking at setbacks off of roadways. They go on, and it said each wind turbine shall be set back at least 1.1 times the turbine height for the nearest edge of the state and interstate road. So all their other roads, they put it at 1.1 times. So you've got a tower that's 600 feet tall, you're going to be just a little over 600 feet off the roadway on less traveled roads. Right now, what you guys have in there, I believe, is 200 feet. And is that 200 feet from the base of the tower, or is that 200 feet from the span of the, it doesn't say, of the blade? And then the item E goes into wind energy facility perimeter. And I think that's referring to density. You guys have it in your zoning, and they do too. The difference is they have theirs at 2.5 times the wind turbine height, and you guys have it at 2.5 times the turbine determined by the rotor diameter. So you're significantly less than what they're doing there by the way you measure it. You use 2.5 times as the multiplier, but what you're 2.5 times from is very much different. And then the other issue they have, and this is just something to think about, their maximum height they're allowing in their county is 500 feet. Now, I might be wrong. Is this a Verizon tower out here, cell tower? On the edge of town?
I think so.
Okay, I just looked it up. That's 104 meters. That's a little over 300 feet. Drive out there. These things are twice as high as that cell tower. Maintenance and abandonment. This is critical, guys. This is back to talking about what's going to happen when these things wear out and they're no longer needed. They describe 180 days of termination. The thing is, you know how most of these big companies are. They'll switch hands. This project could switch hands 3 times. The problem is whoever's holding the bag when the party's over is going to have to deal with cleanup. And is this something that you want to be stuck with as a county or a township? Or are you going to put in protections through bonding to make sure that there's going to be resources for cleanup? And on the last page, 105, it goes into detail on what they expect for bonding requirements. So just something to consider. I just wanted to share that with you. I think there's a lot going on. This is one issue. You also are going to have to deal with the issue on these data centers and the technology that's coming behind there. But I
got a question there. Do you think there's any wind towers in Stark County?
None.
And if there's not, is
Well,
why? I mean,
I could look at this and tell you there's not gonna be any wind towers.
Okay. So your point is,
Well, I'm just saying, we have to decide here.
that's about complying. I mean, they could be in that county if they wanted to comply, but when they see us out here, these easy targets like we have out here in our counties and townships with super lax zoning, they're gonna take advantage of us.
Correct.
Any other questions? That's all I have for today.
Question in the back.
Just to John's point, I had that same question because it was mentioned at the last meeting that a mile setback will kill wind energy. I think Stark County's done a lot of things. I think of Wells County as ag. We don't have a lot of knowledge of energy. So you look to the counties to the west. To your point, John, Stark County has an existing wind farm and they have one permitted that has not been constructed. So they have two.
Thank you.
So with those setbacks, it did not kill wind energy.
And when we're talking about permits, wasn't there a lapse on permits with that water pipe that was going through that River Valley water pipe? Where we found out at one of your meetings that they hadn't gotten a permit?
Right.
So that doesn't help either.
That's a state issue. It's
I
a
think
state
it's a Boston
law.
County issue, but that's off the agenda. We need to stick to what we're dealing with here, but I think that's the Boston County situation.
Question over here.
So one thing I've noticed out here, my name's David Fight, I'm from Eddy County. The one thing I noticed is that we have no engineers or people that can do, that are associated with that. So we're just listening to each other or the wind industry, but no one has ever went out and got an engineer and said, can you figure this out for us and give us a safe setback?
Well, the state has given us guidelines. The state
The state is, I've listened to the state and you listen to the legislature and it's like, these people have no clue. They just go out there and they listen to the industry tells them what they want and they pretty much voted in. But just like our, what was the last ones they messed us up on was term limits. And then they turn around with 1258 with a do not pass, and then they turn around and pass it anyway. So it's the industry that's leading the way, and we're the ones that are going to have to live with this. And, at the 1 mile setback, that's what we did over there in Eddy County, in New Rockford Township. We went a 1 mile setback with variances, and it never killed the project. Actually, Granville Township did the same thing. It didn't kill the project. There's not that many homes. But those few people that do live out there, they're going to get annihilated. There's infrasound, there's sound. These things aren't quiet. And it's not like a train that just comes once in a while. This is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're going to hear that thumping, that noise is going to continue on. And so at least at a mile, which is too short, but at least that'll give them some relief and maybe they can sleep at night.
So you're saying the township went off to do that county zoning in Eddy County?
Yes, we did.
And then you got out?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and then you made mile setbacks for your
Yes, we
township?
did. And so did Granville Township. And I have a feeling there's going to be a few more because no one listens to the townships and the people that live there.
Well, and that's what I'm concerned with here. I mean, if we have too easy of a guidelines, the townships say, well, we don't want part of that, we'll just hop out, and they have to do their own work. And the townships don't have no resources.
It's easy to do. If there's any townships here that want to do that, get hold of me and I'll show you how to do it. It's a piece of cake.
But it's a lot of, you're putting a lot of, how would you call it? And you haven't had engineers look at stuff. You just got, like near my township, you're lucky to get 5 guys that can, in the township, to do a township. And you have to decide all these laws and make sure they're correct.
You take what the county's already done. So the county's already went out here and did all the work, had the state's attorneys, engineers look at this stuff, and you just go out there and you take that zoning.
Well, and that's what we did with the state stuff. I mean, we had the state, and then we
But
adjusted.
all I'm saying is, you got to give those people that live out there, that have spent years out there, you can't destroy them.
Yeah, I agree.
Stan, I'm new on the board, so could you explain to me, we voted on and approved the mile setback at the last meeting.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. So,
And technically, John, help me out here, this isn't the hearing for that because it hasn't been 2 weeks, right?
This is.
This is the hearing, so if we approve it tonight, then
Then it
it's a
goes-
done deal.
Then it goes to the county commissioner.
Then it goes to county commission.
You're already gonna have another public hearing because you took out the structure, so you'll be back in 2 weeks here again.
Yeah, I can, yeah. Won't get the crop in this spring, but we'll get
So-
this done.
so what do we need to do tonight then?
If basically, we're looking at this, what we did last week.
If
We
we
made the
approve it, it's
motion,
done.
it's the motion that's here, it takes out the 1.25 times its total height of 1250 feet, which is greater, and we moved it to 5,280 feet or 1 mile with an option of a variance. So on the table is, if we approve it, we approved the 1 mile setback.
So do we need another motion to approve the 1 mile setback, or what do we
Yeah.
need to continue?
Now, after this meeting, this input, right, if we don't change this, we approve it and it goes to the county commission. Now, if we change it, then we need another hearing. We amend it tonight. 2 miles, half mile, whatever. Then we would need another hearing 2 weeks from now.
Well, I'll put a motion out there that we keep it at 5,280 feet setback with the variance.
I think we should really look into the Stark County one. Other people have already done this. And I think you're missing a lot. I think it's pretty light. I read this, 2009, that this was written in it. I thought, is this for like a windmill that I want to put on my farm, you know, for myself versus, you know, a commercial?
A little bit of history on that. It was set up because there was a proposed wind farm in the Hertzfield area at that time.
Yeah.
And it never,
They're a lot bigger and taller than they were 16 years ago.
well,
And I really think I think we should copy something that's already done like Stark County, which is more stringent than just adding one mile setback.
Well, I put a motion out there, Stan, so you deal with it from here.
is there a second to that motion?
Well, just on that, to me, and we can get this to go through and put the mile setback for it. That doesn't mean that we can't come back and look at this more in depth if we want to. It's just that that mile setback's gonna be in there. That can be done, if something would happen down the road, if the county commissioners approve this too, say in 6 months something happened, well, we have that in there. But if we as the zoning committee wanna get back together and look through and come back, we can look at this.
So-
And then maybe it changes again. Maybe there's more things that get added, some things
So-
taken out. But for tonight's purposes, really, I think the mile setback with option of variance makes sense. That's done, that's out there. Could that change if we wanted to down the road? Yeah, but it's there.
So,
Well,
There's a motion on the floor, and he asked for a second. So
yeah,
if I made the motion, I'd like to know where we're going.
we gotta have a second for the sake of discussion.
I'll second.
Okay, second by John, now we have discussion. I think we gotta be a bit careful in your point that, well, we can just change this. You know, this is a big project, so we don't want people to come in here and we're gonna have a mile 1 month and a half mile the next month. Then we can go to Stark County's 2 mile deal, that's $25, Bill. Just kidding. You know what I mean?
Well, I get that. I'm good with the mile setback. I think that's, I mean, from discussions that we had the last meeting, I mean, we were a lot closer than that. You know, I think that's good. I think is there other things within this that can make sense to do it? I do like the point of, okay, if this gets decommissioned, who's in charge of getting rid of it?
so what you can do, an option to think about, is to approve the motion and have that 1 mile setback. And then say, at your next public hearing, you're going to review the ordinance as an entire, in its
It's
entirety.
entirety. Right.
Mhm.
On the discussion phase, I guess I'd like to hear from PRC and have them address the things that they've heard here this evening, and I would just like that if you would come forward, please.
Thank you. My name's Tim Ross. I'm the senior developer on this project. I'm a little bit of a disadvantage because I've only been on this particular project for a couple of weeks. So, but I'll try to address some of the things that you shared tonight. I will say that a lot of the stuff that you shared from Stark County are things that we typically do on a project. I mean, we have almost everywhere there's a decommissioning bond required, and that's pretty much standard practice for us. Same with road bonds, because we do a lot of work, obviously a lot of equipment going up and down roads, and so we typically, when we're applying for a special land use permit, there will be identified haul routes. We film those haul routes before we start a project so that we know what the roads look like, and then there's a bond in place to repair those roads if there's any damage to them. Certainly on intersections there has to be big cutbacks, because when we're turning those large blades to get into a site, so there's extended cutbacks that we have to put those in and then remove those at the end of the construction phase of a project. There's a lot of debate and discussion out there about all of the different benefits and negative aspects of a wind project, and you can go online, not just for this matter, really for anything. You can go online and find whatever type of documentation you want to find to support your position, no matter what that position is. We do have some information that we want to leave with you, that we have several peer-reviewed journal articles that discuss things such as shadow flicker and noise and infrasound and bird strikes and all of those sorts of things, so that you have some additional information to put yourself to sleep at night if you're having a difficulty going to bed. But it's not sources that are pro-wind, it's not from sources that are anti-wind, but scholarly sources that are trying to get to some of the questions about what are the answers to some of these issues. And so, and again, there's all sorts of data out there, but we have some that we'll leave with you as well. From our perspective, in Wells County particularly, based on the leasehold that we have, a mile setback will kill the project, okay? Because
why will it kill the project?
Because based on we've already completed the land acquisition phase of the project, right? And so, based on the land that we have leased, and we're doing a lot of environmental assessments and different surveys and stuff now that are required for the permit applications. So, based on where the structures are now and the land that we have leased, if we push the setbacks to a mile everywhere from every structure that's out there, then it basically, the setback basically consumes all of the land that we have.
How many towers are in Wells County?
Well, we don't have a final number yet.
Actually, 15. There's 15.
Around there, but those numbers could change, because we never really know until we get this thing finally engineered and we have a permit that we're presenting to the county. So somewhere in that neighborhood. The vast majority of them are in Eddy County, by the way. But because of the land that we have leased and the way that it's configured, a mile setback from all the existing buildings would basically put us out of business in Eddy County.
Well, don't you have the option of going to the variance and meeting with?
So we have the option, but the option, as you know, the option to request a variance isn't a guarantee that we're going to get a variance, right? And so we can, if it were adopted, if this were adopted and the Board of Commissioners adopted it as well, absolutely, we're not just going to throw up our hands and walk away. We will apply for a variance, but then you have the right to not approve the variance, and then we're still at that.
As it should be.
Absolutely.
As it should be.
Absolutely. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying that if the goal is to make sure that it doesn't happen here, well, then one way to do that is to go with a mile setback, at least from our perspective, okay? There may be a compromise, half a mile, a third of a mile, I don't know, that's something that might work. But, there are a lot of other factors when we get to the phase. You talk about engineering, there is a lot of engineering that we'll do on our end. One thing that we don't hear very often is there are decibel limits. 100 feet away from an occupied building, the decibel limit, the state level, the decibel limit has to be 45 decibels, which I'm speaking louder than 45 decibels right now. And so, oftentimes, the decibel limit will push a turbine farther back than the setback, just because of the amount of the prevailing wind